Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm just going to discuss this book here, The Lifted Veil. It's not a book, it is a novella. See how skinny? Funny thing about this one is it doesn't even have a publisher. It doesn't even have a publisher listed. So you can get different versions, or sorry, different companies have published this, and sometimes they'll throw it into a book with some other of her stuff. Anyway, George Eliot, born Mary Ann Evans, and this is her pen name, is an amazing author. She wrote one of the best novels, Middlemarch, ever, and that was how it was presented to me by a friend. I've kind of thumbed through some of her other stuff. I've tried to start other of her novels, and so far haven't gone too much through them. Like Felix the Radical, I gave up because I didn't like it. It was kind of boring. And Adam Bede, I liked, but I don't know why I stopped reading it. Just sometimes you get distracted by other stuff. So I definitely plan on reading it at some point. That's for sure. George Eliot is an incredible writer. I mean, just take any of her sentences anywhere and you immediately get the sense that you're dealing with a genius. So the reason why I've read this before, and I've reread it because, again, as I've said a million times, it's for one of the books I'm working on, some of the research I'm doing, and so I read it with that in mind, and I just thought to myself, maybe just show you how I read when I do research or whatever, kind of what my methodology is. There's nothing too surprising or whatever in it. So since I've read this before, and I'm looking for one particular thing, you can see that I'll put little marks on the side to bring me back to a page that I'll need to reference later. And sometimes I make a lot of marks. Like for instance, this page here has got 3 on one page. Oh my gosh, this is awkward. 3 on one page and 1 on the other. So that's how I mark up stuff. Like I did it with the Augustine book I presented the other day. I did it with the Kierkegaard thing I did the other day, and I find it to be an effective way of getting back quickly and finding the quotes you want to substantiate the point you're making. And sometimes I'll put like a word or two on the side as well to say this is what this quote's about. But since I'm only looking at one very specific thing with this book, I didn't really make too many notes on the sides, just marked up where there was relevant passages. Okay, so I was sitting here a few minutes ago thinking I could do this video, or I could wait till after I've incorporated these quotes into the book I'm writing so that I will know the book better, so as to present it better to you on video. And then I thought, well, why don't I do the opposite of that and present it to you so I can go into it, say tomorrow, with it a more coherent sort of sense of the book when I'm going to add it to my book tomorrow. So 6 one, half a dozen of the other. Anyway, The Lifted Veil, and it's kind of an interesting but strange cover. Like if you look at the picture, it's 2 pictures, or 1 picture sort of superimposed upon itself, or actually I think it's a man superimposed on a woman. It's hard to say exactly. Either way, it's sort of says something about the point of the story. And the word veil doesn't come in till very, very end of the book. I don't know if I can find it but the word veil doesn't come in till the very end. Of course, the word in the title doesn't need to show up in the story, of course. But anyway, this was really a stunning read when I first read it, and I remarked to the friend who had originally recommended Middlemarch to me. I said, "Wow, what a story!" And my friend said, "Yeah, it's completely different from anything else she's written." And the more I thought about it, and the more I've read about her, about George Eliot, the more I kind of understand that this is really, my supposition is this was really self-revelatory. So as I think more and more about her and her writing, again, I start with the premise that George Eliot was a genius, and I don't use that term very often, and admittedly not very often for women. And I have a reason for that, because as Jordan Peterson says, women are less dumb than men, but there's fewer genius women than men. Okay, so women fit more into the center of the bell curve, where men are more stretched out on it. So you get more dumb men and more smart, super genius men. But it's just a small percentage thing. So George Eliot surely was one of those geniuses, and you can tell that in her writing. It's very clear immediately. Just open up Middlemarch and start reading page 1. You'll know that what I'm talking about. And she also had, strangely enough, she was really quite a remarkable scholar in a way. She translated a couple very important technical works from the German. She also translated something from the Latin. Can't remember what it was. Something from the Latin. And what this book is about, basically, it's about a main character who's male, okay, but it doesn't really matter if it's male or female. And I'm thinking of Virginia Woolf's book, that strange story. Gosh, I can't remember it. I'll put it up. The title of Virginia Woolf's book right here. And sort of in both cases, it's a woman writer kind of presenting themselves as a man, but it's kind of like, it's kind of not, I don't know if that makes sense, but I think you'll get what I'm talking about. So anyway, in this case, the main character, it's told from the first person. The main character is sickly, and has a few strange, I don't know what to call them, psychic breaks or seizures or something. Like, the author's leaves it vague enough so you're not really pinned into anything. And he sort of has one of the things is he has a vision of the future, and of course that future happens. And it's funny and interesting how the author talks. Okay, so he had these visions, but the author talks about, the main character talks about himself as being super perceptive, and that the miserable marriage that he enters into, his wife hates him in part because she knows that he knows everything, basically. Now, when I first read this, I didn't know what to expect at all. Having read Middlemarch, you think along one line, right? But this book also helps you to look back at Middlemarch and see things that you might not have seen in the first place. So the lifted veil basically refers to the author's clairvoyance or whatever. And it's such an interesting thing for such an ingenious woman writer to talk about, because it seems clear to me, and this comes across in Middlemarch as well, and when you know things about her life, George Eliot's life, you can see this popping up everywhere. And this is what I've concluded time and time again is she, and this sounds very bad, and I don't know how to put this in the right way, but she knew that she was way smarter than anybody around her, and that made her feel alienated from them. And there was also a sense that her life was a waste in a way, because as a woman, I guess, you know, she felt like she couldn't maybe be taken as seriously as say some of her contemporary, you know, peers, writers. I mean, there's no question in my mind that she was way more intelligent, say, than Charles Dickens or Tennyson. I'm just trying to think of different writers at the time, Hardy or whatever. Way smarter than them, and way more accomplished in scholarship. And it's very clear that this perceptiveness is basically, basically marginalizes her from the human community, so to speak. There was an episode of one of my favorite shows, House MD, where the one guy is super smart, and basically he makes himself dumber by drinking alcohol all the time, so he'll be dumber or something. So this is a theme that I've actually come across more than once, where these geniuses do feel the weight of their genius in that sense. And there's a passage here in this book where she talks about her ability to see things. I say he, so if I say he or her, you know, I'm talking about the author slash main character, is able to predict things. And you think of any really intelligent person, you know, we think about psychologists in this way, or psychiatrists, but I think back to the number one thing, for instance, that Nietzsche used to describe himself. Nietzsche didn't describe himself primarily as a philosopher. He called himself a psychologist, right? Which means he knew the soul, okay? He knew the human soul. And I think in to a great extent, George Eliot is telling us that. Now imagine if you're so perceptive, you know, now think of someone like Jane Austen, right? In her little world and her perceptiveness, and think about that, how it must feel never to be surprised by people, right? If George Eliot is so smart, nobody can keep a secret from you. You're never surprised by the things they do because you know what they're going to do. So that's kind of what this book is about. I'd really be curious if you don't agree with me, and it wouldn't take you very long. It's about 50 pages. I'm sure you can find it online. Maybe I'm way off in left field, but I'd love to know other people's opinions if you agree or disagree with me. But anyway, thanks so much, and we'll try to get back with another video very soon. I have been reading a lot of stuff. It's just getting the time to make a video, getting time to sort of think that you really understand the book. I promised Henry IV part 1 a while ago, but I'd really like to read it again, to really get a sense, not of the storyline. The storyline's clear enough and easy enough to understand, but to understand the weight of the language. I want to, you know, understand the characters a bit better, particularly, you know, the jokey guy, whatever his name is, starts with an M. I'm going to put his name right there. And I also read, what's his name? That's helpful. I'm running blank here, but I felt like I didn't really get the book, so I'm not going to present when I don't feel like I've understood the book. So anyway, expect some more videos soon, and thanks very much, guys. We'll talk to you later. Bye now.